been manipulated by Living Ngoma and others. We're going to Petauka. Let the results here speak for themselves. In Kawambwa, I can tell you that even when, for example, the UPND may pride themselves that they have a member of parliament in Kawambwa, they never won that election, and they know for it. They know for a fact that they manipulated that. They may have temporal joy, but I can tell you, in terms of the bigger picture, we are the victors and not the UPND. Same applies to Kwacha. Same applies to Kabushi. All the seats they have attempted to grab from PF, they have only used underhand methods, they have only used crooked means, fraudulent means, with the aid of ECZ that has the leadership that was drawn from UPND, cadres of UPND appointed to the, as commissioners at ECZ. So all this script, our confidence as Tonse, our confidence as the opposition, is that the Zambian people are seeing what is going on. And they are very good at observing, marking, and they know what to do when it comes to 2026.
What are the chances of the Tonse membership where the Patriotic Front belongs, or which is being carried by the PF as the vehicle? What are the chances of you winning the Petauke Central by-elections, in that you failed to win the Kawambwa by-elections? Of course, you do insist that you won those by-elections, but you are insinuating that there were some imingalato kind of which were played along the way. But the question is, when you look at Petauke and the pictures coming from Petauke, really, wow, the signs indicates that you may again experience another defeat or another shock.
Well, that is if you validate my perception that you are not doing a due diligence as a journalist. You can't depend on social media. As KBN, you must have your own people on the ground who will feed you the reality. What Living Ngoma is doing and PR to try and save his job is not really something that you should go by. The real issue with UPND is what they do 3-4 days before the election. As it stands now, they have already lost Petauke. The energy in Petauke favors Tonse Alliance candidate Simon Banda. The people of Petauke, traditional leaders, church, and everybody else are totally disgusted, not only disappointed, but disgusted that we can have a government in place, according to what JJ himself said, have a member of parliament abducted by officials from State House.
Allegedly so.
Allegedly so by himself, who was a victim, abducted. And when he eventually was discovered, and we thank God his life was spared, in Kafiwe, he was taken to the hospital of his choice, in this case, Medran Hospital. The Home Affairs Minister, Jack Mwimbu, decided to lead a battalion of police to go and abduct that member of parliament out of that hospital and take him to Mainasoko Hospital, where they utilized the facility to restrict access from friends, relatives, and others to JJ so that he can be able to explain what transpired. The only thing that followed is having a situation where Tabo Kawana and his colleague, the PS for Home Affairs, the one they are using to interfere with the Register of Society to try and destroy political parties, is it Mtambo or Matambo or something like that, go to Mainasoko Hospital to try and coerce and manipulate JJ to give a different story from what he considered or had expressed as a reality in terms of who abducted him. And he tried to plead with them, I'm not well, I can't talk, and so on. They eventually even got the likes of Silva Marcelo, at least going by the audio and the voice notes that came from there. Also, her trying to prevail on him to give a different story and promise that if you give a different story, you'll be free. The moment he was insistent to say, I can't give a different story to what the reality is, what happened? He was charged with the aggravated robbery and the other non-bearable offenses. Okay, and offenses which the reality is that, those incidences, when they occurred at the time that they occurred, he was arrested and indicted. He even went to court, and matters were exhausted in court. He was fined by the court, and he paid the fines, meaning that the matters were concluded. How can you be indicted over a matter which was already tried in court and the judgment was passed? It has never happened. It is against the law. It's against every legal practice you can talk about. Not even Sharia law would condone that kind of occurrence to happen. But under the UPND, today we are not even sure, you and me, whether JJ is alive or he's dead. Because the only thing we got was, Jackie Mimbu telling us that JJ has escaped. Whether or not he truly escaped, we don't know. Whether he's alive, we don't know. In the recent past, you remember they told us that JJ has been arrested. And our suspicion, up to today, at least at personal level, I suspect that that was just a decoy to try and create an impression to the Zambian people that JJ ran away, and therefore they found him. Up to today, we have no evidence whether the person they found was JJ and where they found him. Because they were talking of Zimbabwe, they were talking of all these things. Up to today, we have no substance from the pronouncement they made. Are you telling me that if JJ was arrested for having escaped and is in Zimbabwe, this UPND government that believes in propaganda, that believes in social media, that believes in Causeway, Watchdog, and all the nonsense they subjected Zambians to through propaganda, they would leave JJ without any picture to show the Zambians that he's alive and they arrested him? And up to today, we have no answers. We are not sure. And I can tell you, the people of Petauke, just like the people of Pambashe, they are mourning what has happened to their MPs. In Pambashe, they are mourning what has happened to their MP, Ronald Chitotera. Ronald Chitotera has been one of the most generous members of parliament who has looked after his constituency in such a way that he enjoyed support for him even to earn a third term as member of parliament. And as we speak now, the campaign in Pambashe is not a campaign about what UPND has done, what UPND would do, or PF did, and what PF will come and do, or indeed Tonse and so on. The campaign is basically just about Marituka Kilomuntu will come and deal with you, because they know that Chitotera is an innocent man. They know that the cases against him were fabricated. Just like they know that JJ has, in Petauke, JJ has been inhumanly treated. And I can only say, wakwaswaku Petauke. In my elections, yamenyanga na pa umoyo wa JJ, yanga na pa umoyo wa Edgar Lungu. Awa UPND na waka inde chilema. Waimidila po kufuna kutika penanga they can destroy the life of JJ like they have demonstrated. We na minebachita target ni Edgar Chakalungu. Manje apenzo kamba uti Edgar Lungu sanga imirire u president. Wanambira fesu kuchosa majudges wonse wamenewenze wanapanga decision ukuthi Edgar Lungu imirire. Wabachosa through a process that everybody is questioning. And they brought wanaboresa koni court. Once when wanaenda court kwenda kamba tawa abantu songa angane pankania Edgar Lungu kuimira amenacha computer HH mu 2021 ndaba ni wachibururu banani ba HH, so bazayangana pa candidate cha HH na kuina kwa HH, and therefore it was expected to baja abantu watata bwanji they recuse themselves, they refused to recuse themselves. So that decision peculiar, as it was said, is fraudulent, because it was presided over people that were questioned whether or not they are competent to preside over that issue on the basis of their proximity to another candidate who happens to be Akainde Islam. So all these things, when you look at the template and the way it has moved, it can never speak to the rule of law. It can never speak to justice. It can never speak to transparency or good faith on the part of those who are in government. So in Petauke, it's JJ and Edgar Chakalungu. It's JJ and Edgar Chakalungu. If anybody votes for UPND, they are killing HH, they are killing JJ. they are killing Edgar Chagwa. Amene wazakavotera UPND candidate ni shwari upaya alungu warupaya jeje. Amene wazakaenda mu booth mujana windo ika vote pari UPND ni shwafuna uti jeje amwalire. Nishwafuna kuti Edgar Chagwa bamuchite vayonewa plana ba UPND because wafuna ma MPs opeleka ku parliament okachinja constitution bakachose immunity nomuna mizira milando munga mwana mizira wakazi wake wana mizira wana wake wana mizira vonse kufuna uvutisa chabe ndana president bushonkara president mchana mpuno no mulando lero mukakambe uti Edgar even when he was a lawyer for many years, even when he worked for prestigious institutions in the Republic of Zambia, and the chabe wampawe anali bechili Tonse. That's a lie. Aziva, because he also in the corporate private corporate world, he encountered Edgar many years ago. He knows that he was one of the renowned lawyers, but they have presented the picture out there that Edgar Lungu was just like a nonsensical lawyer who never practiced, who was whatever. It's all propaganda, because had he been not a renowned and respected lawyer, he would not even have been considered to be a leader in Patriotic Front, even to be considered as a possible candidate to become president of the Republic of Zambia. And he has saved this country for 7 years. You and me can attest to the fact that Edgar may not have been very talkative, but at least his works talk for him more louder than what he says with his mouth. In terms of infrastructure development, in terms of the governance system that he respected. Today, one of the legacies of Edgar Lungu's presidency is the fact that the constitution that everybody celebrates in the region about Zambia, 50+1 provision, running mate provision, and all these good provisions that people have been shying away from having them in the constitution. Edgar Lungu said, let the will of the Zambian people prevail. It's one of the legacies that is celebrated for. But he will not go out there to go and pride himself and beat his chest the way HH does. No.
We have a number of issues, Honorable SG, but for now, let us just watch one of the videos coming from Petauke. We see how the campaign's going right now. The videos are compiled by ZMBC. We'll watch this video and later on, Honorable Nakachinda will give a comment in that regard.
The ruling UPND has continued to receive newcomers in a bid to solidify its presence in Eastern Province and across the country. It is for this reason that the presidential mobilization team is making tireless efforts to attract as many people as possible to the party. This time, over 300 members of the opposition have defected to the UPND in Petauke district. Presidential Mobilization Team National Coordinator Bishop Baden Mfungwe handed over the defectors to UPND Deputy Secretary General Gertrude Dimenda.
We have got only one president, and that president is Hakainde Hichilema. Uyu muntu ni president wamene alibe sanko. Muyangane mu cabinet yake, muyangane ma ministers. Each and every province there is a minister. Now, I want to come to the defectors who have come to defect here. I'm told it's about 300 number. In the UPND administration, we love peace and harmony.
So there are so many things, Chifuka Chantawi, I thought I should mention those ones, what this President Hakainde and his government have done.
What?
And that's why the presidential mobilization team has come on board, because we want to give President Hakainde Hichilema a massive vote in 2026.
The defectors also explained the reasons behind their defection to the ruling party.
Oya mikira mwanga pazinchito za UPND mwachisanzo tenzo kumvatiala kuti kuli CDF apalomba CDF kutolera kuno kwasi mazituko tuchitaseka.
Eastern Province UPND Chair Lady Helen Piri also spoke at the event. Mrs. Imenda also introduced the UPND candidate in the Petauke by-election, Severian Lungu. Christopher Miti, ZNBC News, Petauke.
All right, thank you so much. That's one of the videos coming from the Petauke constituency in Eastern Province. Now, I have in the studio Honorable Raphael Nakachinda, who of course leading the Tonse Alliance as one of the political parties participating in those by-elections. You did mention earlier on that some of your members have congregated with the UPND. At the same time, you also pointed out, Honorable Levi Ngoma, that it could be among the people that are behind the scenes playing or writing the script or implementing this script. Now, my question I have to you is that don't you think that, first of all, let me hear from you, because you've been a government official. Let me get your experience and also what you know about a political advisor being actively involved into the campaigns. What is your take? Is that legally right? What's your opinion there before I bring in other questions?
Well, it's, for the first time in the history of this country, we are having a civil servant basically actively participating in politics. Only speaking to the fact that under UPND, the rule of law is not respected. There are no boundaries.
Right.
What Levi Ngoma is doing speaks to the script and culture and policy of UPND and Hakainde. The law has been suspended. I can give you numerous examples.
It isn't honorable. You can only allege that the law.
It's not about alleging. I'm giving you tangible evidence. The chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Zambia Commission, Madam Zanome, she elected to go to the podium and said, if any of the candidates resigns in these by-elections, we are not going to cancel the elections. We will proceed with them. It's up to you if you decide to go to the court. But that's not what the law says. The law, not only by the provision of the Constitution, but further on by the interpretation of the Constitutional Court with a ruling on hand, if there is a candidate sponsored by a political party who resigns, those elections are cancelled. Where is that impunity coming from against the clear provisions of the law? It's the same thing. Levi Ngoma is going out there campaigning, having rallies. A civil servant. He's not the only one. Muchereka, Patrick Muchereka, is a permanent secretary under the office of, Secretary to Cabinet. He was campaigning in, is it Pambasha, one of these places? A civil servant. You never have seen such happening under Kaunda. You never have seen such happening under Chirua. You never have seen such happening under Manawasa. Actually, pronouncement from these leaders, including Rupia Banda, including Michael Sata, including West still under Edgar Chakarungu. You remember that under Edgar Chakarungu, there were even public pronouncements. Anyone who wants to participate in active politics, resign. You can't combine being a civil servant and going into, vying for a position or parading yourself at a rally and so on. Those are in public domain. But under Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, he has even himself as president told us publicly that you DCs, your politicians, you are appointed for political reasons, go and play politics. Didn't you hear that statement from the president? So you have a leader in President Hakainde Hichilema and a party in UPND that do not want to follow any law. That's how come the judiciary is never respected in this country. Now judges are, toasted to and fro and removed like it's at a market. You understand? When it comes to the conduct of civil servants, now it is purely partisan. Today, civil servants that are supposed to serve all citizens, when I meet civil servants in public places, they are afraid to even shake hands and say, I'm saturated. That is had never been the case. Mr. Hakainde Hichilema would interact with all civil servants, police, and so on. They even visit his home. But would never have that happen in, under UPND in government. So to that effect, I can only say to you that we have been invaded by wrong people in government, and we need that to be corrected. And I think it is important for us to highlight this evening that over and above just the fact that they ignore the law, the level of human rights abuse is alarming. Do you know that as we sit today, and I said that on another platform yesterday, we have a senior member of Patriotic Front in Mumbipiri, who in the by-election of Kawambwa, we heard or had intel that one of the UPND officials and the minister, Mike Imposha, was in a ward where UPND was not designated to undertake any political activity or campaigns, in a classroom collecting voters' cards and NRCs and all that, such activities, which are illegal. So that allegation prompted the leadership of the party to have Honorable Mumbipiri assigned to go and check what is going on. As it were, they were trying to be dramatic about it, but they were journalists, there were cameras. She went and confronted the minister, confronted the people there. They tried to explain themselves. What eventually turned out to be the situation? The victim alleging misconduct and illegality on the part of UPND officials and the minister eventually turned into a villain. The police ended up arresting Honorable Mumbipiri and, alleged that she, stole by way of force, and they have charged her with aggravated robbery. Mumbipiri wangabe 20,000 na gadget phone na iPad. Was I first of all, just imagine on your own, where will Mumbipiri take a gadget for what? You understand? It's clearly a political move to intimidate the opposition. But even when they arrested her, they took the file to DPP's office. She was arrested on the 9th. 2 days later, which was the 11th, they forwarded the file to Lusaka. Obviously, it was even when we have questions about Gilbert Piri, being DPP. This time around, he writes and says, "There is no evidence. I'll just make a fool of myself in court." The case you have, you are talking about, there is no evidence. The letter about that position reached Mansa on Wednesday last week. The police, where Yui is the commissioner, because they are receiving instructions directly from the State House, could not act. Yesterday we talked about it. Today we saw some letters being leaked, and they are all on social media, exposing the fact that the NP has already advised that there's no need to keep Mumbipiri, Celestine Mkandira, Honorable Jini Chisenga in custody or indeed arrested, because there's no evidence of what you're alleging. What is expected of the police is to release these people. Why are they still keeping Mumbipiri in custody? It's because it doesn't matter the opinion of the court, because these people, even the rulings and decisions of the court, they disobey. Well, who is DPP? That letter he has written, they would have disobeyed. The victims are still held in custody. And that's how come we're saying the rapporteur who has come, Madam Khan, should not come here as a tourist, because that's what the UPND are attempting to do, to try and get her into tourist sites. They take her to different to see the Victoria Falls, they take her to one of these places, so that the 10 days that she's here, she doesn't have the opportunity to have her feet on the ground, interact with the critical stakeholders to get the reality. UPND thrives in propaganda. They have been channeling out a narrative through propaganda to suggest that everything is okay. It has even improved. We are better off today than we were under PF. It's a lie. For the first time, they have even weaponized the Human Rights Commissioner. The spokesperson of human rights has been assigned to move from TV station to another TV station. They started with ZNBC, went to Diamond TV. We don't know why he hasn't even gotten here, but he has been to radio stations, trying and create a perception that things were bad under PF than they are today. Who are they cheating? Zambians know that the things the UPND promised, they have failed to fulfill, not even one. When it comes to issues of governance, these people have lamented and failed. The situation today is worse than it was before under PF, under MMD, or indeed under UNIP. Today we have a full-fledged dictator in Mr. Hakainde Hichilema in State House, who willy-nilly is interfering with all institutions of government. They are people, of course, who have been pepped up and positioned in the judiciary, in ECZ, in the police, who are advancing a UPND agenda. But I can tell you, all tyrants have their day. All dictators have their day of have their expiry day. Even Mr. Hakainde Hichilema has his expiring day, and the expiring day of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND is in 2026. And I want to warn those who are in the judiciary, warn those who are in the police, warn those at ECZ, warn those who are in other institutions of government and advancing UPND agenda, that very soon you'll be facing the law by yourself as an individual. Remaining professional. If you're not professional and you're advancing a partisan line, you'll be dealt with. That spokesperson from the Human Rights Commission, can you imagine? He was trying to suggest and compare that under UPND things are better. The commission, a Human Rights Commission, is expected to deal issues of human rights case by case. An individual's violation and the abuse of human rights is as important as having 10, 2, 3, 4, 20 people's human rights being violated. It can never be that you start now becoming a PR for UPND. What we expect from the Human Rights Commission in Zambia is to tell us what interventions they have made from 2021 up to today over human rights abuses of people like Mumbipiri we are talking about, of people like Mr. Kapwepwe, Waimi in Livingstone, who has been moved from Chirabombo into Livingstone and has been kept there for over 5 months in prison for basically expressing himself over his dissatisfaction to the governance of UPND. The 2 youths from Karurushi who were kept in custody for over 60 days, having been moved from Karurushi, where it was expected, if the rule of law was followed, the jurisdiction under which they should have been arrested, indicted, and prosecuted for alleged offenses should have been in Karurushi. Why bring them into Lusaka? It's all meant to inconvenience them, detain them for a longer period of time as a mechanism of intimidating them so that they can be coward from not speaking out.
I do not know who is confusing who here, because from at least the side where I belong, the Fourth Estate, from the media, what I know about the law is that the matter can only be tried within the jurisdiction where the alleged crime was committed from. And that was the justification which the Human Rights Commission, Mr. Mwelwamulea, was trying to justify, that it is where the matter was reported from. Now, I was asking myself, okay, is it where the matter was reported from or where the purported crime was committed from? You've been in government before. What does the law say?
You have already answered the question. Because by your own...
That's what I'm saying. That who is confusing you? Who?
It's not a confusing...
You, the people have been in government? Or you, the politicians? We are too gullible, we ourselves? What's the issue here?
Innocent. Question you should have been asking him to say that misleading statement from the spokesperson of a Human Rights Commission. What are you doing about it? Don't say who's misleading who. You already know that. Because
politicians have got a way of evading the
politician. The Human Rights Commission spokesperson is converting himself into a politician, and you should be concerned as a journalist for him to come and start misleading the public. The law is very clear. The jurisdiction of the subordinate court lies in the district where that magistrate is assigned. And when it comes to matters where you are indicted and are supposed to be prosecuted before the subordinate court, you are to be indicted within the jurisdiction of the district where the offenses are alleged to have been committed. I am a victim of this nonsense of UPND wanting to, have cadres victimize, political opponents. When I talked about the primitivity of the president, seeing what he had exhibited from the day he was sworn in up to the time I had that interview, and that we were headed for disaster with this president, I was a boy called Kanema, a youth chairman of UPND, said in northwestern province in Sorweze, bring Nakachinda here, we're going to sort him out the way we sorted out Kungo. What did they do with Kungo? How did they sort him out? They killed him. You understand? Then the police were directed to arrest me in Lusaka and took me to Sorweze. You understand? And when they took me to Sorweze, do you know that the cadres of UPND in Sorweze had been informed and they were being detailed how we are moving? When I arrived in Sorweze, I protested that I am not going to be put in a cell that is designated as predetermined. I need to be taken to a cell which is not one that had planned to put me there, because I know what they want to do. They want to put me in a cell where UPND cadres have been infused so that they can harm me in the night. When the police could not, they saw that I was not cooperating, they put me in another cell. At 03 hours, UPND cadres came to that police, having of course given intel. We want Nakachinda out. Bring him. Why are you keeping him here? I had to then be kept in prison after all the interviews, which is not provided for a person who has not yet been jailed. Why? Because the cells in Sorweze, it became very apparent that some cadres of UPND had even, reported themselves and their friends for misconduct so that they can be in the cells to come and deal with Nakachinda. All these criminal activities, you understand? When we went to the Magistrate Court, we challenged the magistrates. You have no jurisdiction to deal with this matter, because the so-called even interview they are talking about was conducted in Lusaka. How can it be that I should be tried in Sorweze when where the people are drawing the so-called the allegation was conducted in Lusaka? That's how that matter was referred back to Lusaka. But that conduct has not stopped. Savoy was almost being taken to Kabompo, Imboera. Tayari was taken to Rukuru. You know these practices. And they have taken Kapwepwe to Livingstone. They have taken they took those boys to Lusaka from Karurushi. All these are abuses of human rights. But not only that, we have members of parliament, Munia Zulu, Honorable Mabonga for Mfuwe. All these are members who are suffering and going to court. On what basis? Because some cadres of UPND had a press briefing where they're saying, bring Edgar Lungu. These Easterners and members want to trouble us. Bring Edgar Lungu here. We're going to, circumcise him, and all the insults, unleashed. These two members of parliament and others, Edith Nawakwi, Professor Danpuri and others responded and saying, this is dividing the country. Arrest those people. Otherwise, you are going to provoke people to start reacting from a tribal and regional point of view. What has happened? I can't discuss the details, but those are matters that are in court today. People have been arrested. We should have the courage in the Republic of Zambia to call a spade a spade. This government under UPND has abused the citizens more than anybody else. Mumbipiri, who's arrested today, was alleged to have murdered somebody in Mongo, kept in Kaoma, kept in Mongo for over 400 and something days, even when it was known that she was innocent. And when eventually judgment was supposed to be meted out, for the first time in the history of the country, on the day of judgment, the DPP enters Enole. It has never happened. But these are new developments under UPND, where all institutions are being interfered with. Look at the Judicial Complaints Authority, how they removed the 3 judges in the court, how they have removed High Court judges. Today, judges and magistrates are intimidated because of the fact that the security of tenure is not guaranteed. Let's have these conversations as a people of Zambia if we are patriotic.
You earlier called or described President Hakainde Hichilema as a dictator. Are you able to withdraw that description?
I should withdraw that description for
yes,
what?
Please. For calling President Hakainde Hichilema as a dictator.
Why should I? What is your problem? Why you want me to withdraw my description of Hakainde Hichilema?
When he's not a dictator.
The signs he has demonstrated up to today only speak to the fact that this person is a dictator. A dictator, siweza kakulizirani ngoma utimanje mavotera dictator. You have to analyze their conduct for you to be able to determine whether you have a democrat or you have a dictator. The conduct of Misaka in the past 3 years only shows the fact that this is a dictator. And if he's not stopped in 2026, I can tell you the damage Misaka in the will cause to the governance system of this country, the economy of this country, and all that will be too grave and too complicated to correct. We have to be brave enough to say we made a mistake. Maybe the warnings and signs that people are giving us, including Kaunda, the former president, the first president of the Republic of Zambia, who led the fight for independence among others, he told us that I am comfortable with all my children aspiring for president, but there's one I'm not comfortable with, because the signs he has exhibited is that you divide this country. And today, I can tell you, for the first time in my life, my 47 years of being here, I am beginning to be aware that in me I have Tonga blood, in me I have Eastern blood, in me I have Bemba blood. That never occurred. My mother, who was both Easterner and Bemba, and my father being Tonga, was never an issue at any given time when I was growing up. But today it has become a reality, and I can only say it is becoming a reality because a leader ultimately produces his own kind. When a leader is a tribalist, the followers become tribalists. When a leader is a nationalist, the followers become nationalists. When a leader is a dictator, everybody begins to operate with impunity. That's why cadres like Kanema can say, we'll beat people. This boy called Diruswaniso, the National Youth Chairman, can have a meeting at the secretariat, says, we have the capacity to beat everyone. Their president is saying, I don't want cadres, but indirectly sending them, can you sort out people? I went to a fundraising, event in Mongo, for the Komboka, a very highly respected traditional ceremony. And the setup there was that there was a VVIP pavilion and obviously the general pavilion. I was privileged to have been among those who bought tickets into the VVIP. Okay, where the Speaker of the National Assembly was one of the guests, ministers, MPs, the Ngambera representing the Ritunga and all his Kuta, and different people from the business and all that were all there. Do you know that UPND cadres that were in the company of Riswaniso, led by this boy called Brian Mulenga, came to assault me in the presence of the Prime Minister of the Balose, in the presence of the Speaker, Neri Muti. You understand? And then you can go there and say no. And you know what happened? We went to report to the police.
That was my question.
We went to report to the police. We got medical reports and all that. Later on, the police came and told us, sir, you know you have been in government before. This matter cannot go anywhere. Because we have tried, we got all the medicals, the doctor's report and everything, but we can't arrest. Why? Somebody has instructed them. Because it involves Nakachinda. Let me tell you, one of the greatest virtues of a leader who's a Democrat, it is the attitude and how they treat those who criticize them. A weak leader goes for those who criticize them with a heavy, hand, to punish. But a Democrat, he will listen beyond all the irritating sentiments from those who are criticizing. He will get the wisdom or possibly the principal issues they are raising so that he can learn from there and be able to correct the situation. Mr. Hakainde Hichilema has demonstrated total contrast to Levi Mwanawasa. Remember, Levi Mwanawasa was one of the highly criticized presidents. But what did he say? He said, I have developed a thick skin. I can absorb. When Mr. Sata got sick, do you know his testimony that he gave to the Zambian people? I realized that the criticism, as much as it was paining me from Mr. Sata helped me to work. Misaka in the Hichilema, everyone who criticized him is an enemy. Do you know that in the last National Management Committee of UPND, they even put Nakachinda as a subject to discuss Nakachinda as a person from Misaka in the Hichilema, and he solicited.
How did you know? Were you in that meeting?
Listen to me. In today's time of technology and so on, the only way you can safeguard yourself as a leader is to make sure that what you are doing in private and public is something that you can proudly defend out there. Because there's nothing nowadays that is secret. Everything is public domain. Okay? When we have a meeting, a central committee, the only thing we can do is to discuss whatever we discuss with nobility, with the interest of the nation. But the moment you begin to have meetings where you are scheming against individuals, at that particular point, people begin to get concerned. Somebody from there called me and said, you know, because he's very bitter. But he's bitter because he's used to having these Jack Mwimbus, Garing Combos, and all these tribesmen who patronize him and praise him. So to have somebody who is
How do you bring in the tribe in this conversation? Really?
Because I can tell you, it's not about tribe. I'm not being tribe. I'm telling you the attitude of the person in there. As far as he is concerned, all those who come from his region are not expected to oppose him. So those of us who have the courage to say what he's doing is wrong, whether he's Tonga or not, and I'm Tonga, is wrong. As far as he's concerned, you are a traitor. Nungo gaga ugayanzi dime president ano amana waterega is not expected to be the opposing me. That is basically the issue that we're dealing with. You understand? There are certain things that I would say which others will say. He will not take offense from those who have said, because they come from certain region. But because me, I come from his village, you understand? It's an abomination. You actually come and try and deal with me. And I know this because we live in the same environment. We are relatives. I know some of my relatives that were contacted to say, I was summoned in my village to be sat down to say that you can't be opposing your brother. And I asked my relatives, I said, even when he's wrong, I told them I take great exception to that nonsense. Don't ever have a conversation with me that is tribal, that is regional, that is ethnic in nature. Let's deal with issues. What he's doing is destroying the country, even if he's my relative.
Let's watch the video of the visitor we have in the country. That's in the name of the special rapporteur has come to the country to collect all these opinions and allegations on human rights abuse, and later on I will give you the time to give a reaction. Let's watch this video coming from a director.
Pleased with the welcome and the arrangements that you're making on the ground. I will also listen to other stakeholders. I'm here to find ways in which I can give you advice, and I can also discuss with you recent developments or legislative developments, other issues of how to strengthen your government's commitment to human rights, especially freedom of opinion and expression. In the early days, particularly today, I'm here more to listen than to say anything. I will, of course, present my findings to your government on the last day of my visit, which is the 31st of January, and after that I will speak to the media. But right now I'm much more in a mode of listening.
In particular, with regard to the freedom of expression, Article 20 is clear that all citizens and persons within Zambia will enjoy an inalienable right to the freedom of expression and opinion. And I think that is a starting point for us as we undertake this very important exercise. Your Excellency, the reason I mention that is because we have some, perhaps what I can term historical context to how this freedom has been observed and enjoyed in the recent past with previous administrations. And we, through President Nakachinda.
All right, so now there is a story here which of course has been issued by the Minister of Information, Honorable Cornelius Mweto, in this regards about the visit of Madam Irene Khan, in which his government says it has an eighth scheme by the opposition political parties in which they intend to tarnish the country's image, the country's name, by flooding alleged complaints of human rights abuses through emails. Speaking during a media briefing in Mongu, Chief Government Spokesperson Cornelius Mweto urged the international community not to pay attention to the alleged abuse of human rights being peddled by the opposition, because the claims do not in any way depict the reality. Mr. Mweto said the scheme by the opposition and their sponsors want to incite young people, women, and other groups of unsuspecting citizens to send as many emails as possible on the alleging on human rights abuses. He said the emails are intended for the attention of the international community, alleging that the rights of the complainants have been abused in a way or the other by the United Party for National Development, UPND. Mr. Mweto, who is also Minister of Information and Media, said several people have been recruited to act as victims of the alleged abuses of human rights. That's what the minister there is stating in that statement. Honorable Raphael Nakachinda, first of all, your comment about the statement which has come from the Minister of spokesperson of government, Honorable Cornelius Mweto. Well, you belong to the opposition.
Well, first of all, he's already pleading guilty from that statement. Because Olulumbilwa Mushi as the member said, Tabayasukira. There is no scheme or anything secret that we are doing as opposition. We are openly, like I'm doing today, and like it has been done by way of correspondence, expressing both locally and also to other international cooperating partners what is happening in Zambia. But because they are so obsessed with the issue of Plan B, they think that the letters and the emails we are sending to critical stakeholders international means that's Plan B about human rights abuses. We have done so because we have been able to compile different incidences where the UPND government and different institutions with impunity have literally taken away the rights of citizens. For the issue of freedom of expression, it's just that in UPND people don't even have shame to have Aimbe face the rapporteur and say, no, the freedom of expression, everything is okay. And that we have, of course, a few historical issues. We can't be talking of historical issues because history speaks of UNIP, speaks of MMD, speaks of PF. What were the reasons for which UNIP was removed? It is these same issues about freedom of expression, assembly, and human rights and so on, which under one party state, clearly, they could not be guaranteed. MMD came with a promise, and I think laws were changed, and there were even decisions made in the court, like the Christian Murindika case, where you don't need to go and ask for permission from the police for it to assemble, it's just notification. But along the way, when these values that they came with began to look like they're deteriorating, MMD was voted out. PF came into power. 10 years were in office. When it became very clear that we may have been performing in terms of development and so on, but when it comes to governance issues, there were gray areas. In 2021, the Zambian people said no. The argument in Zambia seems to be suggesting that the UPND have the right to continue perpetuating and even do worse in terms of abusing human rights taking away freedom of assembly, freedom of expression because it was done under PF. That's a stupid argument, because PF was removed out of office on the basis that
I'm afraid you're using strong words that may not be friendly to the camera.
What do you mean, friend? Stupid just means foolish. Foolish just means lack of knowledge. You know, it's just that obviously maybe when we're growing up, our parents used to worry tumpa and so on. Therefore, we think it's a very complicated word. It's a stupid, it's lack of knowledge. It's like foolish. You know, it's basically, or nonsensical if you like. I don't know which one you're comfortable with, because I have to express it for what it is. You can't sugarcoat something that is stupid. You can't sugarcoat something that is foolish. You can't sugarcoat something that is nonsensical. It is nonsensical today to reverse a position that has been practiced all these years. Under MMD, under PF, the opposition were given the opportunity to have rallies. Okay? There could have been instances where the opposition were being provocative and wanted to create a situation out of nothing, and the police in the interest of peace would do that. But not a policy position like it has been expressed by Ms. Msamba, that in this case the opposition will not be allowed to have rallies because according to him they are a security risk. How can it be a security risk? Actually, the security risk is when you don't give the citizen an opportunity to ventilate through rallies, through public expressions and interaction between the opposition and the citizens of the Republic of Zambia. It gives the citizens an opportunity to ventilate. Why? Those who are aggrieved with what's happening today, they don't have a medium through which those issues can be expressed. If we are given an opportunity to be at a rally and we speak in line with what people are going through, they remain with hope that obviously for Zambian government. Now, if there is no opportunity for such, people begin to find other avenues to which they can, ventilate their frustration. That's why criminality comes in and other vices. And the people must know, if you want to save the people in politics, it's about the welfare of people. It's about people management. And people are managed in a multifaceted manner. And it's not like a business, it's not like a farm, it's not like at your home. It's about managing the people in a multifaceted manner. And some of the tools you use is that those who criticize you, give them the leverage to express so that they represent those in society who don't agree with you. And by expressing themselves, you buy time of them being patient, waiting for you to respond to what has been said. Now, if you said, we don't want any of you to criticize, you are actually basically bottling up people's frustration. And when people are squeezed to a point where they can't take it anymore, the only thing is that they react and they react badly. And that's how come we're warning this government. Let's not continue on the path you are taking, because we are going towards chaos in this country. We don't want, none of us want to experience civil strife. When people have no confidence that when they go to the court, they'll get justice, they begin to take the law in our own hands. When the police are not there to protect you and me, in the end we have to protect ourselves. When Kawambwa, where the police were aiding the UPND to assault members of the opposition, Sean Tembo is in the office together with the commissioner of Rapura province. And the commissioner of Rapura province saying that you criticize my president, you are too talkative. If I wanted, I could have actually left you to UPND guards to deal with you. You don't even deserve to sit on the chair, sit on the ground. How can you have a commissioner of police expressing such a partisan position when his duty is to save and protect all citizens?
And I was about to take you back to the story of Honorable Mumbipiri. In summary, what next now for Honorable Mumbipiri in that regards? Because the quoting from the president's consistent message has been that before you arrest someone, ensure that you carry out an investigation. And in this case, it appears that she was arrested and apprehended before a thorough investigation could be
there was no
so
way.
What next now?
There was no way she could have been arrested and treated the way she's treated, save for the fact that the instruction was coming from higher officers. Because what happened there, everybody knew. Even Mike Imposha, both his public statement in the media and what he reported at the police, it does not incriminate Mumbipiri. So why was he arrested, save for the fact that they were instructed to arrest her?
Is he going to sue?
Who?
Is she intending to sue? Or
Who?
you haven't spoken to her yet?
No. We can't be talking of suing. She's in detention right now. The abuse of human rights is ongoing. It hasn't been curtailed. What the way forward now is a demand. I want to demand to Musamba, IG, and Yui in Wapula. Stop this nonsense of keeping innocent people behind bars. Release Mumbipiri forthwith. And I also want to appeal to the rapporteur, Madam Khan. Instead of just going to Copperbelt tomorrow, extend your visit to Kawambwa so that you go and see your fellow woman, what she's being subjected to. The facility under which she is detained, where they are detaining her in a place where she's subjected to very harsh weather, and there are no toilets, there are no facility whatsoever for the past 2 weeks going into 3 weeks. On trumped-up charges, Mumbipiri must be released forthwith because she is innocent, and all Zambians who mean well and are objective know that Mumbipiri did not do what they are alleging she did. That she went to steal, using force, 20,000 kwaja and a phone and whatever gadget from Mike Imposha. Who doesn't know Mike Imposha and his arrogance in this country? Are you telling me if really there was such a thing that Mumbipiri did, Mike Imposha would keep quiet? You will not expose that. His story can tell that Mumbipiri is innocent.
I want us to pick up a few calls, but before that, let me just get your take over what you picked from the inaugural speech of Donald Trump in the US yesterday. What was the catching message from there?
First of all, for me, the catch message is, first of all, his demeanor.
Right.
He's a very controversial figure, but he's very patriotic. Everything he pronounced was was speaking to the interest of Americans. The executive orders he signed immediately after inauguration were all speaking to the interest of Americans. Okay. To his presidency and campaign, and now his policy as a government is to restore America to its original cultural base of being a nation that is under God and recognizes God in the affairs of that country. Making bold pronouncements. There are only two genders, male and female. There's nothing in between that others who are perverse are trying to create. That boldness is what we expect from a leader. It may be controversial. It may go against those who have, because some of these virtues are sponsored by people who are affluent, powerful because they have the money. But he has taken a bold step, which we have not been able to see on the continent of Africa, save by, from leaders who, of course, their means of coming to power is not something that you can really, celebrate. But the policies are advancing, like Traoré of Burkina Faso, who has been able to even pay the entire debt stock of Burkina Faso by making just bold policy positions insofar as the economic relationship between Burkina Faso and the West. Same applies to Mali and others. We may not necessarily talk about their means of coming to office because we are Democrats. Would want that we continue to perpetuate and insist that let the will of the people prevail.
As a critic,
but the issue of us being patriotic is critical. One of the disservice that we have suffered under UPND is because Misaka Indechirem and the UPND are puppets. They were captured before they got into government from capital. The Oppenheimers and Brent Trust Foundation and all these were involved in financing and pushing the agenda for them to get into government, have not let them be. There's a policy desk at we believe, or at least we've been advised, at State House, influenced by these interests. We even have Tony Blair, who is an ambassador for LGBT and whatever, values, having, a clear influence on policy, economic or otherwise, in State House. And we have expressed concern about all these issues. But the president has not heeded to that. His pronouncement and his inclination towards following and advancing the interests of foreigners is apparent in every policy position, whether it's in the mining sector, in the business environment. He favors foreigners than he favors Zambians. Zambians under Mr. Hakainde do not qualify to have money. That's how come anybody who seems to have accumulated a bit of money during PF, they are being pursued. And what has happened is that they have begun to implement the law of about property suspected of process of crime. They have even changed the burden of proof from being that of the prosecutor to that of those who are alleged, who are suspects, which is unconstitutional, because in the Constitution it's very clear that a person is deemed innocent and proven what guilt, and the burden of proof is on those who allege. But today, if I just and by the way, you look very smart. If I just love the suit you're wearing, I can maliciously go to the police and say, the suit of Mr. IP is a proceed of crime. They will arrest you based on this beautiful suit. And now you have to be explaining, when I'm not good, and so on, and then show receipts and so on, which practice many Zambians, including the judges themselves who are presiding over these cases. If we go and examine the properties they own, and whether or not they can be able to prove that every block, every kg of cement that they added to build those things or buy those things, they can justify, and they have all the receipts. You find that those Zambians deserve to own anything. But that is the culture the UPND are advancing. No one should own anything. And how is it that in these corruption cases, they are only Zambians, but they were dealing with Chinese, they were dealing with the Lebanese, they were dealing with the English, they were dealing with the people from the West and others. But in court, you will never find a Chinese. You will never find a Lebanon, somebody from Lebanon. You will never find somebody from England. You will never find somebody from all these Indian and so on. Why? It's because it's a black thing. It's about race. It's about condemning ourselves where our brains were damaged. And when you have a leader and leaders whose brain is damaged with the indoctrination that a white